Today we're going to check out Speed Racer on 4K Blu-ray. I'm not going to be reviewing the movie itself, I'm just going to share some of my thoughts on the audio and video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. This movie was shot in 1080p, so it will be an upscale. It's rated PG, runtime is 135 minutes, aspect ratio is 239:1, and the audio is in Dolby Atmos. Now what we are going to do is we are going to take a look at the Dolby Atmos Object Viewer, which will show you exactly what's going on in this audio mix by displaying what speakers are active in my 18-channel Krix setup. I've also got 8 RBH subwoofers, so I shouldn't be lacking for any bass. Links are down in this video's description if you want a list of all the gear that I use for these 4K reviews. Alright, so here we are at the Dolby Atmos Object Viewer, and as you can see, we have 4 active top channels. And then we also have 7 active bed layer channels. So for about 99.9% of the time, this audio mix is going to be in this locked static layout. So 7.1.4, pretty much from start to finish. However, coming in at around 6 minutes and 38 seconds, we do have one dynamic scene where we have Speed flipping over this dude here. And that's the only time that his car flips up into the overhead channels. But again, we do have some really nice solid front to back movement with the cars racing back and forth between the front and side stage and vice versa. And pretty much anytime we are in a race scene, you can hear the cars moving from front to back, side to side. So really nice movement for most of these racing scenes. Next up, at about 1 hour 11 seconds in, we have, I think, the most movement in this audio mix. So this is a big crash scene here. Again, during a race scene, we have another car flipping over a couple other cars, and then Speed and Racer X also flipping up in the air. And that's when we have all of the available channels in my system that do become active. So this is the second time, actually this is the third time we get some really nice solid dynamic object movement. The second time comes in where Pops is spinning the ninja above his head, which will light up all 6 available top channels, if you have 6 channels. If you have 4, then it's going to light up 4. If you have 2, then it's going to light up 2. But for my system, since I've got 6, it's going to light up all 6 channels. So during this entire movie, there are 3 scenes that will use dynamic objects to scale through all of your available channels if you have more than 7.1.4. Now, it's got this one scene where we've got a bunch of reporters that are panning from left to right and right to left across the front stage. So if you have your speakers behind the screen, the dialogue will track exactly where the movement of each character is as they glide across the screen. I know it's not a surround demo moment, but if you have your speakers properly placed across your front stage, this scene is going to track perfectly. Now, as far as bass response, the first really substantial amount of bass comes in when the plane lands outside of the racer house. It's meant to sound like it's an earthquake, but it's really just the plane that's landing outside. So that's really going to shake your room. There's a couple other moments in this movie where the bass really digs pretty low, but for the most part, I would say that the bass is kind of mid-level. It's not non-existent, but it's not also super strong. So nothing about the bass response in this is demo-worthy or even reference-worthy. It's okay. It's good. Video quality wise, if there was ever a movie that would show off how crazy HDR can make your TV or projector look, I would have to say that Speed Racer is that movie. I think this is going to knock out Aquaman for HDR vibrancy. The colors are cartoon levels of crazy with very deep saturation and truly do jump off the screen. The brighter your display, the better this movie's going to look. I did try to point out some great looking shots, but from start to finish, it's not really lacking in the color department. Now, resolution wise, this again was shot in 1080p, so high definition. And unless they used some sort of AI upscaling to add additional detail, it can be really hard to tell in certain spots that this movie wasn't shot in 4K or maybe even higher, because the level of detail they were able to pull out on some of these actors' teeth, I wish they could have pulled a David Fincher and fixed some of these shots. So the detail can be 4K crispy at times. That being said, there is a mix of high detail and soft shots, which isn't too surprising given that it was shot in 1080p. Now, I've only seen this movie once back in the theater back in 2008, so I've no idea what the Blu-ray looked like or even the DVD looked like, if there was one, to call back as a reference. Now, there are some shots in this where they've clearly went in and erased wrinkles or blemishes, So there are a few shots of Susan Sarandon where she looks overly smooth, and even Trixie has that Terminator 2 look at times where it's just overly smooth. I don't know if that's how it looked on the older Blu-ray or theatrically, but faces for sure have been cleaned up. But given the overly stylized cartoony look of this movie, it isn't too out of place. I did find that some of the highlights were scorching hot and even did look a little overblown, and the shadow detail for the most part looked good, with some of the darker areas, whether intentional or not, looked like really large patches of black. But overall, if you didn't know that this movie came out in 2008, it could pass for something that was shot today. The HDR, I think, is the real winner here. So I'm going to go and give it a Shane score of 9.8 for video. Audio-wise, I thought this was an okay mix. I would have liked the surrounds to be more distinct and more directional, and the bass response was really strong in about 2 or 3 spots, but I thought the bass could have been stronger, especially for the race scenes. I'm going to go with a 7.8 for audio. So what are your thoughts on this new 4K transfer of Speed Racer? Do you like this version, or do you like the older Blu-ray? Leave your comment down below and let me know. And thanks for watching.